Okay, now we get into the era of the Texas Revolution. Um, Let me get rid of this for right now. In the Texas Revolution, this is a new era. So the other one, so we went from the Mexican National era to the Texas Revolution era. So that's 1829 to 1836. It's a little bit, remember, Mexico gets its independence in 1821. They have a constitution in 1824. And that tension is going to lead to eventually Texas becoming its own country and then becoming part of the United States. So, what characteristics signified that era? Well, centralists gained control of the Mexican government and tightened government authority. That meant that originally, when they first wrote the Constitution in 1824, they were called Federalists were in charge. So kind of think of that as Republicans and Democrats, Trump and Biden, and they have different opinions on the way the government should run. In this case, Federalists, who wrote the Constitution of 1824, thought the states should be kind of free to do what they want to do. So the Anglos liked that because they wanted to kind of run Texas the way they wanted to. Well, the centralists are going to gain control of Mexico, and they're going to want to have everyone follow the rules, every state to follow the rules of Mexico. So some of the things that they let them get away with before, they're not going to let them get away with. So I think of the centralists are strict parents, and the federalists are more kind of laid back parents. Okay, so centralist versus the federalists. Okay, the next characteristic is rising tensions between Texas empresarios. Remember, Texas empresarios are the Anglos that came over, and the Mexican government, now in charge of the centralists who are strict parents. There are going to be some tensions that's going to lead to the revolution and eventually Texas independence. Okay, that's what this era is about, as opposed to the previous era, the Mexican national era, where it's kind of similar because in the Mexican national era, remember, there was rising tensions between the people that wanted to be free from Spanish rule. This case, it's these Anglos that want Texas to be free of Mexican rule. So a lot of very similar stuff. Okay, so this video is going to focus on a reteach of the causes of the Texas Revolution. So in your grades, you take a look at the test that you took, the causes of the Texas Revolution. Okay, and so there were 6 main events. We had the Fredonian Rebellion, which was kind of a group of people that were not really the mainstream. So like even the impresarios weren't necessarily the major impresarios, the Austins, the Green DeWitt, those type of guys. They weren't really with these guys at the time. So the one guy's name was Hayden Edwards, and he declared his colony independent from Mexico. And like I said, Stephen F. Austin supported the Mexican government in this one, and the militia put down the rebellion. So this rebellion loses. But here's the key issue of the Fredonian Rebellion. It worried the Mexican government. Remember, Mexican government's that strict parent. What happens when you do something that you're not supposed to do with a strict parent? Well, they start to feel like they're losing control, and they're going to give you more punishment or more rules that is going to make you. They feel like it's going to gain control, but oftentimes what happens is you just rebel more against the parents. So the first thing they got to do is figure out what the heck is going on. So what they do is they send a guy out there to do a report. The Miran-Terán report is what it's called. So who authorized this report? The Mexican government. What do they want to do? To keep control of Texas, figure out what the heck's going on in Texas. Why are these guys having a rebellion? So they sent a guy to investigate and make recommendations. His recommendations were that Anglos outnumbered Mexicans 10-1. That's important because they might have a different opinion. They might be more on the side of America than the Mexican government. They may not be Mexican enough, according to the Mexican government. So the Anglos outnumbering them makes them feel maybe they are losing control. They also had a lot of slavery, which was illegal. And they didn't have a lot of the Mexican cultures, the Spanish speaking, that sort of thing, Catholic religion. So they didn't like what they were seeing, these centralists. So what they're going to do is they're going to pass a law called the Law of April 6th, 1830. So it started with a rebellion. Then that rebellion, even though the Mexican government crushed that rebellion, and it wasn't even very popular. I mean, the vast majority of Anglos were not for independence at this point. But what's going to happen is the Mexican government's going to overreact, and this law is going to create a situation where all of the, well, not all, but most of the Anglos are going to side with Hayden Edwards and the Fredonian Rebellion. It's called the Law of April 6, 1830. And the Mexican government passes a bunch of laws. Mexican settlers will now get the best land in Texas. So if you're an Anglo and they're saying, nah, you're not going to get the best land, we're going to bring people from Mexico City and stuff, they're going to come up there and they're going to get to pick the best land. It's not going to make you very happy. They're not going to allow any more Anglo settlers. Remember, they thought the Anglos outnumbered them enough already. So they don't want any more Anglo settlers to come. They're going to ban slavery over time. And they're going to put more Mexican troops in Texas to keep an eye on the situation. They're also going to tax American goods to kind of hurt them economically and not allow too much American influence. Remember when the Mexican Republic was first formed, their biggest threat was the United States. Big country, powerful country. Then what this did is Americans were upset with these new laws. They thought they came out of nowhere. Now that's not really correct. They came out of this sort of stuff that came with the Miri-Taran report. They weren't following the rules. So the strict parent that the centralists were came in and passed these laws. But that's going to get the Americans, the Anglos, upset, and they're going to come together, and you're going to see these different things that happen. Okay? So what's going to happen is all of these things are increasing tension. So what's going to happen is there's going to be an internal Mexican government situation. Remember I talked about the centralist and the federalist. Strict parent centralists, not as strict federalists. Santa Anna is going to pretend that he's a federalist, and he's going to have a revolt against the centralist. And the Anglos were like, hey, you know what? We don't really want independence. We just want to return to that Constitution of 1824 before all that craziness of the Law of 1830 was passed. And we also have a couple of our friends, Travis and Patrick, are in jail. So we want to get them out of jail. So Santa Anna, pretends like he's with them. So once Santa Anna is going to win a battle against the centralist forces, he is now going to give inspiration to the Texans. So they have this Turtle Bayou resolution where they pledge their loyalty to Santa Anna because he pledged to return Mexico to the Constitution of 1824, which was the less strict idea. So they love it. They're like, okay, we're going to back Santa Anna. Santa Anna loves it. Well, Santa Anna is going to win that revolt and come to power. So in 1832, the Texans have a convention. And in that convention, they ask Santa Anna to allow Anglo settlers back in Texas. They don't want to pay taxes on U.S. goods, and they want to separate from the state of Coahuila. So they want it just to be their own state, because right now they're combined. And they did that to limit their power. Okay, so they basically want to get rid of the law of 1830 and form their own state. Okay, nothing really comes of that, at least major. So they have another convention in 1833, and they feel empowered because Santa Anna is a federalist and they think he'll do what they want him to do. They think they're friends. So they send Stephen F. Austin to Mexico to ask for a separate state, allow them to write a new constitution, and get rid of the laws of April 6, 1830. Problem is they already created that constitution, which the Mexican government thought was treason. So Santa Anna is going to throw Stephen F. Austin in jail. Thought they were buddies, but they're not, and they're going to throw him in jail for treason, and that's for creating a new constitution at the 1833 convention. Santa Anna is then going to lead an army into Texas to force them to obey the law. So it turns out Santa Anna is not a federalist. He turns out to be a dictator, and they do not like this. The Constitution of 1824 was supposed to give Texas freedom over their own affairs. They felt betrayed by Santa Anna. So these events lead to the next phase, which will be the actual Texas Revolution, the Alamo, and all the stuff that you probably have learned about even before our class. But these are just the things that caused the revolution, these events. Okay, so that's it. And